At the beginning of every month is when I do basically a refresh to our finances. I go through all of our expenses and I make sure just everything is in line. This is something that I do monthly, and I thought I would share it with you guys, what I do on a monthly basis, and then maybe I will continue doing these videos once a month because every month changes just a little bit, just like refreshing what goes on behind the scenes. So that is what today's video is going to be on. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Adrienne. I post videos every week, so I would love for you to stick around if you enjoy this video. Either click the subscribe button or the like button down below. All of those things help support my channel and they are completely free for you. But with that all said, we will hop right into the video. All right, everybody, I am filming this kind of in two parts, so if you see me jump around in outfits or places, that is why. This is the second part. This is my hippo. His name is Hippo. I've had him since I was like 4 and he stays with me on our bed. All right, so the first thing I do every month is I go through all of the previous month's expenses, and that helps me see how our budget went last month. I go through every place we would make a charge and factor that into our budget. I use an Excel spreadsheet that I created years ago. It's something that has worked for me in tracking all of my expenses, and this is what my budget spreadsheet looks like. So in these columns right here is where I put my expenses. So I put my expenses here along with how much it was, and then the date I put right here. So I take those expenses and I categorize all of my expenses into one of 5 buckets. So the first bucket is my giving bucket, and the second is my like carb stuff, the third is my house stuff, the fourth is my personal stuff, and then the last one is other. Right now it's like medical stuff and travel. So I am actually going to make that available to you guys in my Etsy store. So I am opening an Etsy store for my budget templates. Right now, if you go, they are going to be 50% off for the first 100 people that go and get it. That makes it only $4.50. So if that's something you want, go quickly and check it out there. That's the first thing that I'm going to go do. I'm actually going to go down and sit on our couch on the heating pad because I hurt my back. Yeah, so I'm gonna go do that. I will explain things as I go, but let's jump to that. All right, I got my heating pad here. I have my Gilmore Girls on in the background, and I'm gonna get started with this spreadsheet. I'm first gonna go through our Chase credit card. So we have a Chase Sapphire Reserve. Actually, I had a Chase Sapphire Reserve, and then I brought it into our marriage. And this is like our main credit card that we use. So I'm gonna go through all of that first. All right, so I just went through all of the Chase Sapphire Reserve charges. The next thing I'm gonna go through is our checking account, because sometimes we have certain expenses come out of there, like our electricity. You can probably hear heat going right now. So I'm gonna go through that. All right, so I just finished that. I have you guys propped on a little window right now. So the next thing that I do after I go through all of my expenses is see what is kind of surprising about how we spent in our last month. But I will say the one thing that was surprising about this month, or something that we weren't expecting about our expenses, was because Noah is a veteran. When he left the military, he got life insurance through Veterans Affairs, and so he has to pay for that annually. It's pretty inexpensive for the coverage that he gets, but we had to pay for that this month, which was about $320 that we weren't anticipating spending. So that's something that we have to keep in mind for going into next month. A couple more unexpected charges that we had were, we are planning on going to visit my family at the end of this year. So not during the holidays, but right after. And my family is all gonna be in California, and we got a rental car for that time. So we paid for the rental car up front because it was cheaper, and we're actually renting through Turo because it was significantly cheaper through Turo to get a car as opposed to like a big rental car agency like Avis or Budget or anything like that. So we've tried Turo once before. We didn't have the greatest experience, but I think hopefully this time will be better because we're supposed to be getting one that will meet us at the airport. And also the reason why I wanted to try Turo is because we have an American Express card. One of the benefits that they were giving this month was a $30 credit back if you spent like $150 in Turo. So anyways, we had to pay for that up front. That was like $240. And the one other thing that we had to pay for this month. I talked, I think in my last video, how we went to a workshop with a therapist. The workshop itself covered the hotel and the food for while we were there, but we had to come a day early to get there in time. And so we paid for the hotel for that one night, which was $130, I think. So those were our unexpected charges. One of the things after I put in all of our expenses, what I like to do is go through and see kind of where we went over in each of our categories. So I explained all of the categories that we break our budget up into in a video earlier. I will put it up in a card above. But what I like to do is go through each of those categories and see where we overspent and then see where we underspent. So overall this month we did pretty well with our budget. One other thing that we had to pay out of pocket for was Noah went to the dentist for the first time in like 3 years yesterday. And with our health insurance, specifically with the one we have, for some reason, we have to pay everything out of pocket and then we get reimbursed by insurance company later. So we had to pay out of pocket for his first visit, which ended up being a lot because they did x-rays, they did everything. It was $470 and that overall ended up putting us over our budget, but we're expecting to get most of that back, if not all of that back. So I will show you guys our budget. Our medical expenses were like a lot higher this month simply because we had to pay out of pocket for Noah's dentist visit. The other thing that we spent way over was our fun money. So that's our travel, our date night, our eating out, any of that stuff. That all included that rental car that I was talking about, the hotel that we paid for. There were several things that we paid for this month that we aren't going to be using until like next month. The next two things that we both went over were both of our individual fun money. The reason why I went over my fun money is because it was Black Friday and I'm not a big shopper, but I do love to like craft and make things, and Joann Fabrics was having like some crazy sales. So I was like, all right, if I buy all of these things now, I'm gonna save money in the future when I want to make projects, but I already have the stuff. So I allowed myself to go over a little bit, but the way I balance that in my head is if I go over this much this month, then I will just not spend as much next month. Same with Noah. Noah didn't go to Joann Fabrics, but he did have like an annual charge from his gym. I know that's included in that. I think that was it. For some reason, we like really underspent in groceries this month. We actually probably spent almost $200 just this week coming back from Thanksgiving because we didn't have any food in the house. Internet should be charged. Internet was charged today, so I should probably add that. And then maintenance on our house, we didn't spend anything on any maintenance this month. It kind of balanced our whole budget out. After I go through all of our expenses from each of our cards or each of our checking accounts, I will go through and pay our bills. So I have a few bills that we pay. Like I pay for our credit card. Most of our bills, like our electricity, our internet, all of those things are on automatic pay, so I don't really worry about those. But that is usually what I do next. After we do that, we have a general amount of money that we transfer to our Fidelity investments account every month that we have a goal to save for every month. So this is the point in which I would transfer all of that money to our Fidelity account, which always takes a couple days for it actually to get there. So I'll usually just start that transaction now and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it in a couple days. But I usually don't like to keep an excessive amount of cash in our bank account or in our checking account. Usually if I know it's not for something we're using either that month or something, then I will transfer it to our Fidelity account even if I'm not investing it. And that's really psychological, I guess, for us. I don't typically like to keep a lot of money in our checking account because then I guess I fear that if we feel like we have a lot of money in our checking account, it's just more easily accessible there and then we're more likely to spend it. That's not fully true. Like, I mean, I have a credit card, so it's not like I can't charge more on a credit card, but that's just kind of generally what I like to do. After we do that, the next thing I would do, and these are all the things I do every month, and like as I'm talking about them, it sounds like it takes a long time, but usually it doesn't take me this long because I'm filming this and talking about it at the same time. It's taking a lot longer than I'm used to. But the next thing I would do is calculate what our expected income would be for next month, considering what hours we are working. For the month of December, we are not planning on traveling anywhere. However, I will be out of town to go visit my family for 1 week before Christmas. and so I have to anticipate what our income will be, reflecting what we are going to be working versus what are we going to be out for. The reason I really love using my spreadsheet, and the reason I've been using it for so many years instead of using like an app that automatically tracks what all of my expenses are, is because when I do it by hand, when I manually go through each of my bills, making sure that each of the charges I made were actually charges that I made and that there wasn't any mistake. So I will find mistakes every once in a while, and the only reason I would find those mistakes if I'm the one that's actually going through them, and I feel like it's a more hands-on approach to managing my money. Otherwise, I become kind of apathetic about like, well, if I'm just charging it and the money's in the account, then I don't have to worry about where the money's actually coming from. So that's why I really like to use my spreadsheet. Like I said before, it's available down in my Etsy store, so I will link it down below for you guys. All right, the next thing I do, which is not fully related to like managing my money, but usually throughout the month, I will be picking up things that I see around our house that I know we're not using or things that we don't want anymore. Careful not to pick up anything that's Noah's, but I will go through all of my stuff fairly often, and I will go either resell it or I will gift it to somebody. And the reason I do that is because I find that the less stuff I have in my house, the more room and space I have to hear God. And so I talked about this a little bit in my last video about just reducing the noise that I have in my life. So that would be like clearing out my schedule, making sure I'm getting enough sleep, making sure I'm eating well, and also just reducing the amount of stuff I have. I don't need a ton of stuff. And if getting rid of a lot of my stuff makes me able to hear God better and have a better relationship with God that's more clear, then that's what I'm going to do. So that's something I've added into our monthly refresh routine. All right, everybody, I am straight up sitting on the ground. The last thing that I want to talk about is there are a few things that are kind of special to what's going on in this coming December, in this coming month. Something I've decided to do, I talked about how I have a Chase Sapphire reserve, is I am getting rid of my Chase Sapphire reserve. So in the last, I think the only time I've ever talked about what credit cards I have are in the what I carry in my wallet videos that I've made. I've had a Chase Sapphire reserve since the beginning of 2020. 3 total years now. The annual fee has gotten so expensive. I think it's at like $550 right now. To add a additional card holder, it's like a $95 charge or something like that. I can't remember. It's just become really impractical for me to keep the card. So my plan is to downgrade it this month because my annual fee is supposed to renew in January, but I waited this long to cancel it because, all right, my camera battery died, so I had to replace the battery. You guys are crooked. The reason I waited to downgrade the card until now was because I had already paid for the annual fee, and so I wanted to get the whole year's use out of it before I downgraded it. But I also wanted to keep it because I've been planning our honeymoon. So we planned our honeymoon to be like 4 months after we actually got married. So we are going on our honeymoon for 2.5 weeks in January. That's a whole video I want to make about planning our honeymoon because I planned a fantastic honeymoon, like all on credit card points, and that is a video to be waited for. That's the plan with the Chase Sapphire reserve. I don't know how much of that I'm actually going to keep in this video. Previously, when I was filming this video, I actually had always been planning on downgrading our Chase Sapphire reserve to a Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is the same family of Chase credit cards, but is like 1 tier lower. So the Chase Sapphire Preferred has a $95 annual fee, and then you can add somebody to it for free, as opposed to the Chase Sapphire Reserve where it's $550, and then you can't add anybody unless you want to pay like $75. Noah and I had talked about that, and we ended up just deciding to completely get rid of our Chase credit card, and that also had to do with just like freeing up space in my head because, for one, I could make an entire video on why I'm getting rid of the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I guess to synopsis it, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, yes, expensive, does come with great benefits. However, those benefits literally are changing all of the time, and it's changing so much that I literally can't keep up with it, and I just don't care enough in my head to constantly be keeping up with what changes are happening with the card, and I just don't use a lot of the things that the Chase Sapphire Reserve comes with. In me just trying to reevaluate like where my energy is going, I just really don't care to be spending my energy trying to keep up with different credit card points, different credit card deals. I just don't care enough. And so what we did decide to do was get rid of our Chase card, and then we have USAA everything. And so we are just going to get a joint credit card through USAA, and that will be our main card. So we won't get the perks of having like credit card points or anything, but USAA has cash back, so we can use all of that cash back on whatever we want. We may get less money back, but at least I won't be spending my mental energy trying to figure out how to use credit card points, because right now really the only thing that's the best value for using credit card points is for travel. And although we do travel a lot, it's just not really worth it for us. So that's kind of where we are at with that. If you want me to make an entire video about that process and how it goes, because I mean, some things I'm worried about right now are just like, all right, what happens if I cancel a credit card? Does my credit score go down? How do I cancel a credit card? Like, I know I have to call them, but I also have to send a letter and make sure everything is closed, that all of the bills are paid off before I do that. I feel like that would be a very practical video to make. That's what we are planning on doing with that credit card. Other thing that is special to this month is we are needing to renew our health insurance. So I need to go through, and I think it's due by December 15th. I'm gonna have to change or renew our health insurance. I think our health insurance is like $312 for both of us. And then for our dental insurance, it's like $25. So I need to go through and do that this month. One thing I wanted to add, somebody asked me where our health insurance comes from if we don't work full time. We get health insurance from healthcare.gov. So if you guys don't know, that's the government's subsidized health insurance that I'm pretty sure started because of Obamacare. So we get health insurance on the marketplace that's, I'm pretty sure, subsidized by the federal government, but that's open to the market. I'm pretty sure anybody who qualifies can get it. So basically we went through, we applied, we saw what we qualified for, and then we got to choose from a bunch of different health insurances depending on how much it costs. So we're actually in the process right now of having to renew ours for next year. So whether we're going to keep ours or switch to a different one, that's where we're at right now. All right, so all of this said and done, this probably sounds like a lot of information. Why I believe that this whole process is so crucial. Like, yes, this is a condensed video and you're seeing everything I'm doing all in like a 15-minute take. I think it's so crucial to be hands-on with finances. Me going through every expense every month makes me aware of what is going on in our finances, and I know where we are headed. It doesn't matter if we have goals or not if we don't know what's going on with our money currently. I know exactly where we are, what we're doing, where our money is going right now, and I know how we can achieve those goals. All right, everybody, so that is our December finance refresh video, first one of this series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, hopefully this all made sense as to what our process is for our finances. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a question down in the comments. I'll try and answer it as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, for liking my video, for commenting down below. All those things help my channel and I do appreciate it very much. So that is all I have for you guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great week and I'll see you guys then. Bye guys. I look like an absolute ghost right now. I'm gonna embrace the whiteness that I am right now.